Women start missing you the most when they finally sit in silence with themselves and realize that no one else has seen them the way you did, not just for who they are, but for who they tried so hard to hide. It's not about missing your face or your voice. It's about the way they felt when they were around you, unguarded, seen, heard. Esther Perel, a leading voice on human connection and emotional intimacy, reminds us that longing is not about presence alone. It's about meaning. And women, especially strong, independent, emotionally intelligent women, only begin to miss you when the echo of what you once shared becomes louder than the noise of their everyday lives. They don't miss you when they're distracted, busy chasing their goals, healing their wounds, or proving their worth to the world. They don't miss you when you play games or when your presence lacks depth. No, they miss you when they realize that connection is rarer than attraction, and emotional intimacy is harder to come by than attention. When you gave them the kind of safety that felt like home, when your silence didn't feel like abandonment but comfort, then your absence becomes a weight they carry quietly. They miss you when they're surrounded by shallow conversations and forced laughter, realizing that none of it reaches the depth they once experienced with you. When their heart reaches out in search of understanding and there's no one there to meet it halfway. When they replay the way you listened, not to respond but to understand. That kind of connection, the kind rooted in curiosity and empathy, cannot be faked or forgotten. They miss you most when they try to replace the bond with something easier, less demanding, more convenient, and it falls short. Because convenience never matches soul. It doesn't scratch the same itch. And when a woman has tasted emotional truth, no substitute will ever satisfy. They miss you when they feel safe with someone else but not inspired, or when they feel seen but not deeply felt. They realize then that love is not just about being chosen, but about being cherished in the quietest corners of their being. And here's the twist: women often don't realize what they had until they've had time to grow, to step into their full selves. It's not immaturity, it's evolution. And when they evolve, they look back, not to regret, but to reassess. Was he the one who nurtured my becoming, or the one who feared it? If you were the one who stood still while she grew, she won't miss you. But if you were the one who poured into her spirit without trying to possess it, then you become unforgettable. They miss you most when the world tells them to be strong, but they long for softness. When they put down the armor and remember that you loved not just the warrior in them, but the human too. The tired, the messy, the unsure parts. That kind of love is not lost. It's carried, it lingers. It shows up in their quiet moments, in the songs they skip because it hurts, in the messages they write but never send. And yes, sometimes they miss you long after they've moved on. Not because they want you back, but because they want to feel again what they felt with you, the freedom to be raw. And that is the greatest compliment a woman can give a man. I became more myself when I was with you. That is legacy. That is impact. So if you're wondering whether she still thinks of you, understand this: women remember energy. They remember how safe or unsafe they felt in your presence. They remember your consistency or your confusion. They remember if you created clarity or chaos. And they carry those memories like weather, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy, always shaping how they move forward. If you want to be missed, don't focus on being impressive. Be intentional. Be present. Be honest. Don't be perfect, be real. Because women don't miss men who had the best looks or the biggest promises. They miss men who saw them in silence, who listened without solving, who stayed when it was uncomfortable, who made them feel like they didn't have to shrink to be loved. And sometimes by the time they miss you, it's too late. Because even if they miss you deeply, they may not come back. Missing isn't always a call to action. Sometimes it's just a lesson wrapped in a memory. Sometimes it's a silent thank you for reminding them of who they are. And sometimes it's a reminder that the soul doesn't forget those who touched it. So, if you ever wonder what it means when she says nothing, but you can feel the shift, know this: she doesn't miss you when you're gone. She misses you when she realizes no one else has made her feel the way you did. And if you were wise enough to love her soul, not just her smile, that's when the missing begins. Quietly, deeply, unavoidably, and perhaps forever. They miss you most when they try to replace the bond with something easier, less demanding, more convenient, and it falls short. Because convenience never matches soul. It doesn't scratch the same itch. And when a woman has tasted emotional truth, no substitute will ever satisfy. This is the quiet truth behind so many unspoken emotions. We live in a world that glorifies options, fast connections, short-term pleasure, and filtered perfection. But the human heart, especially the heart of a woman who knows her worth, is not easily fooled. It knows the difference between something that feels good and something that feels true. It knows the difference between surface-level attraction and a soul-level connection. And once a woman has experienced that kind of depth with someone, everything else begins to look and feel shallow. It might not happen immediately. In fact, at first she might tell herself that moving on is easy. She might convince herself that letting go is the best thing, the right thing, the empowering thing. She may meet new people, entertain new conversations, try on different smiles. She may feel a momentary rush in the presence of someone new, someone who says all the right things, someone who brings laughter and lightness, and perhaps even comfort. But over time, the energy begins to shift. The conversations begin to echo instead of resonate. The laughter starts feeling rehearsed instead of real, and the intimacy, however physical or emotional, begins to feel like a performance, not a connection. Why? Because at her core, she knows. She knows the difference between something that is easy and something that is there real. She knows that convenience might give her peace for a moment, but it will never give her purpose. It will never give her that deep-rooted sense of, this is home. When she was with you, maybe things weren't perfect. Maybe there were flaws, disagreements, even wounds. But there was a something she didn't have to explain or justify. Something that made her feel like she could take off her mask. Something that made her speak her truth, even when her voice trembled. That something wasn't convenience. It wasn't about how smoothly your lives aligned or how often you made each other laugh. It was about how deeply you made her feel. And that is something you can't manufacture. No matter how many dating apps you scroll through or how many perfect matches you meet. You see, emotional truth is a rare experience. It's raw. It's unsettling. It doesn't always look pretty, but it stays with you. It lingers long after the person is gone, long after the calls have stopped, long after the late night texts are deleted. Emotional truth seeps into the bones. It teaches. It transforms. It scars. And when a woman has been opened up by that kind of truth, when her heart has been exposed in that vulnerable, powerful way, it changes her. Not because she's desperate to hold on, but because she now carries a deeper understanding of what love really is. She will try to move forward, of course, because that's what strong women do. They rise, they rebuild, they learn to smile again. But don't confuse her strength with indifference. Don't assume that just because she isn't reaching out, she isn't remembering, missing you, feeling the absence of that connection. She does. Not all the time, not every day, but in those quiet moments, the ones no one else sees. When the noise dies down and she's left alone with her own thoughts, that's when it creeps in. It's in the way she hears a song you once played for her and suddenly can't breathe. It's in the way she tastes something familiar and is pulled back into a memory she tried to bury. It's in the way she sits beside someone new and thinks, he's nice, but he doesn't see me. That's the ache that follows emotional truth. It's not longing for what was. It's longing for what that made her feel. She's not looking for perfection. She's not even looking for a fairy tale. She's looking for honesty, safety, presence. That energy you gave her when you held space for her without trying to fix her. When you listened not with judgment, but with curiosity. When your attention wasn't scattered, but still. That kind of presence is rare, and it becomes irreplaceable. Convenience can't match that. It never will. She might try to tell herself otherwise, because letting go of someone who reached her soul isn't easy. It requires a death of sorts. The death of dreams, of future plans, of that version of herself that only existed when she was with you. And sometimes to survive, she'll pretend. She'll say, I'm better off. And in many ways, she may be. But that doesn't mean she doesn't miss you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. And real is rare. We live in a time where people are constantly trying to upgrade partners, jobs, lifestyles. But you can't upgrade the soul. You can't replace a connection that was earned, built over time. Layer by layer, in the late night talks, the shared silences, the vulnerable admissions, the mutual respect. That's the kind of connection that grows roots. And when something grows roots in a woman's soul, she never truly forgets it. Even if she never speaks of it again. Sometimes the person she's with now will ask her, are you happy? And she'll smile and say yes, and maybe she means it. But inside, there's a small space, a sacred hidden room, where your name still lives, not as a regret, not as a wound, but as a reminder of what was possible, of what it felt like to be met, not managed, to be held, not handled, to be loved without agenda. And maybe you feel it too. Maybe you wonder where she is now, if she still remembers the way your hands fit together, the way your voice is softened when you were alone. Maybe you try to silence those thoughts, bury them under the weight of work or distraction. But if it was real, if it touched both of you in the places that rarely get touched, then it still lives, somewhere in both of you. In the things left unsaid, in the words that still echo in the dark. That's the consequence of emotional truth. It demands to be remembered. Even if you never return to each other, the mark it leaves doesn't fade, and maybe that's the point. Maybe some connections aren't meant to last, but to awaken, to remind, to realign. So yes, she misses you most when she tries to replace you with something easier, and it doesn't work. When the laughter feels rehearsed, the kisses lack fire, and the love feels conditional. When she realizes that the kind of man who sees her soul and stays isn't easy to find. And in that moment of clarity, when she feels the absence more than the presence, she'll remember you, quietly, powerfully, not because she needs you, but because you mattered. And maybe, just maybe, she'll smile to herself and think, hey, was the real thing. And I was lucky to feel that, even if only for a while. Because some people are chapters, others are lessons, but a few are mirrors. And if you were her mirror, if you reflected her back to herself in a way that no one else ever did, then no matter how much time passes or how far she goes, a part of her will always miss the man who didn't just love her, but they understood her. And in a world of temporary attention and superficial affection, that kind of understanding is everything. It's what stays when everything else fades. It's what gets missed when everything else is gone. And it's what she will remember long after the rest is forgotten. Because convenience never matches soul. It doesn't scratch the same itch. And when a woman has tasted emotional truth, no substitute will ever satisfy. There comes a moment in every woman's life, whether through pain, growth, or reflection, when she begins to distinguish between what is simply available and what is truly aligned. In that moment, convenience becomes hollow. The easy road, the safe choice, the low-effort connections, all begin to feel like echoes of something deeper she once knew, something rare she once felt. And if you were the one who gave her that depth, that presence, that undeniable resonance, you become the silent measure by which all others are compared, even if she never says it aloud. Because convenience might fulfill her calendar, but it cannot touch her soul. We live in a world that thrives on convenience. Fast food, instant messages, one-night stands, swipe culture. We are conditioned to believe that faster is better, that easier is smarter, that if something takes time or work, it must be wrong. But love, real love, does not obey the rules of convenience. Soul doesn't run on a schedule, and when a woman has felt what it's like to be truly seen, heard, and understood, when she has tasted the richness of emotional connection that goes beyond surface level attraction, everything else starts to feel like cardboard in comparison. She may not realize this immediately. Sometimes, she will walk away from a soul connection because life feels too complicated, or the timing feels wrong, or you both weren't ready. She may chase freedom, independence, or novelty. She may tell herself that there are other options. And on paper, she may be right. Other men may look better, speak smoother, offer more. But what they won't offer is soul. They won't offer the fire that burns quietly beneath the surface. The kind that lights her up from the inside and makes her question who she is and who she could become. Because when a woman connects with someone on a soul level, it changes her. It doesn't just make her feel loved. It makes her feel awake. She sees parts of herself she never saw before. Her fears, her shadows, her hopes, her brilliance. They all come to light under the gaze of a man who knows how to hold space without judgment. And once she has experienced that kind of illumination, everything else starts to feel like darkness pretending to be light. Convenience can never match that. It doesn't challenge her. It doesn't inspire her. It doesn't ask her to grow or shed layers or come home to herself. It just fits neatly into a life that looks good but doesn't feel right. It offers comfort, not transformation. But a woman who has evolved knows the difference. And when she settles for convenience, something inside her always feels off. She might not be able to explain it. She might not even want to admit it. But she knows. In her bones. In her breath. In the ache that lingers when the conversations end and she's left alone with her thoughts. Because emotional truth isn't just about love. It's about liberation. And the man who gave her that, who stood in front of her and met her with honesty, vulnerability, and reverence, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he was perfect, but because he was present. Not because he had all the answers, but because he wasn't afraid of the questions. Not because he gave her everything, but because he gave her something real. That kind of experience rewires her. It shifts her standards, not in a way that makes her impossible to please, but in a way that makes her unwilling to settle. She begins to recognize energy over effort, intention over attention, depth over display. And suddenly, the men who once seemed appealing begin to look like mirages. They talk the talk, but they don't have the substance. They offer the illusion of connection, but they can't hold her spirit when it trembles. They can't sit in silence with her without feeling the need to fill it. They can't witness her in her fullness and say, I'm still here. And so she starts to miss what she once had, not because it's gone, but because it was real, because it touched the parts of her that convenience cannot reach, because it made her feel something she didn't even know she was capable of feeling. And as she walks through life achieving, growing, smiling, succeeding, there will be moments where the truth catches her breath, moments when a song plays or a quote appears, or someone says something that sounds like you used to. And suddenly, the weight of what she lost presses gently on her heart. It's not about wanting to go back, it's about recognizing what mattered. It's about understanding, maybe for the first time, that not all love is created equal. Some loves are built on routines, shared interests, common goals. But some loves are forged in the fire of soul recognition. That kind of love doesn't need logic, it needs presence. It needs courage. And if you had that with her, if you gave her a space to breathe, to unravel, to be fully herself, you will always be remembered. Not because she can't move on, but because she doesn't want to forget something that beautiful. And here's the truth: emotional truth comes with a cost. It makes her more selective, more introspective, more aware of the masks people wear. She starts to crave conversations that leave her speechless, not small talk that passes the time. She starts to value presence over performance. She begins to notice when someone listens to reply versus when someone listens to understand. These small things become her compass. And as she navigates a world full of distractions, she holds that compass close to her chest, searching for the feeling she once had with you. So when she misses you, it's not always about the relationship. It's about the way you made her feel, the way her soul exhaled in your presence, the way your energy didn't try to own her but held her, supported her, honored her. That kind of energy is sacred, and it is missed not just by the heart, but by the soul itself. No convenience can never match that. She may try to find it again. She may date, she may explore, she may fall into patterns that are easy and drama-free. But deep down she'll know the difference. And the next time she sits across from someone who checks all the boxes but doesn't ignite her spirit, she'll remember, not with bitterness, not with pain, but with clarity. You were not convenient. You were not simple. You were not easy to forget. Because you were truth in a world that is too often full of noise. You were her mirror when she was lost, her anchor when she drifted. And even if life moved you apart, even if there's no message or meeting or second chance, the imprint remains. Because once a woman has tasted soul, she'll never settle for snacks. She may rise above. She may walk forward. She may thrive. But if you held her heart in a way that no one else has since, if you saw her without looking through her, if you stayed when it was easier to run, if you spoke words that healed instead of harmed, then yes, she will miss you. Quietly, fiercely, eternally, because convenience may knock on her door 1,000 times, but so only visits once in a while. And when it does, it leaves a mark that no easy love can ever erase. And when a woman has tasted emotional truth, no substitute will ever satisfy. This is the point at which love transforms from something you chase to something you recognize. There's a shift, a quiet but irreversible change that happens when a woman meets a man who gives her emotional truth, not charm, not empty promises, not the performance of love, but the reality of it. A man who speaks from his heart instead of his ego. A man who shows up when it's uncomfortable. A man who doesn't just say, I love you, but shows it in the way he listens, the way he stays, the way he sees her fully, especially in the moments when she feels the most unworthy of being seen. This kind of love creates a before and after in her life. Before she knew what it meant to be emotionally safe, and after she realized she could never live without that again. Emotional truth isn't just about transparency. It's about resonance. When someone meets her with truth, it hits her on a level that no logic can explain. It stirs the still water in her soul. It wakes her up. It shows her that love doesn't have to feel like guessing games or fear or confusion. It can be clear, calm, whole. And once she's felt that, even for a moment, the bar is set forever. She could be surrounded by attention, flooded with compliments, desired by many. But none of it will reach the part of her that emotional truth once touched. Because that part doesn't respond to ego or flattery. It responds to presence, integrity, authenticity. And if you were the one who gave her that, she carries you with her, not in the sense of not letting go, but in the sense that you opened a door inside her that she never knew existed, and now it can't be closed. It's not about being her favorite chapter. It's about being the one that rewrote the entire story. And so, as she walks through her life, facing her fears, building her dreams, healing her wounds, she carries with her the memory of what truth feels like. It becomes the compass by which she measures every future connection. Does this person make me feel free or controlled? Do they see my layers or just my surface? Are they curious about my silence or only present for my shine? She remembers how you made her feel, not because she's stuck in the past, but because she's unwilling to repeat a life that felt fake. Because substitutes can mimic connection, they can mirror affection, they can imitate desire. But emotional truth is not something that can be acted out. It must be lived, felt, embodied. It's in the small things. The way you looked at her when she wasn't speaking, the way you knew when to hold her without asking why she was breaking, the way you remembered the things she only said once but never forgot. That's not convenience. That's truth. You can't fake truth. You can't rush it. You can't trade it for someone who just says all the right words but doesn't feel like home. When a woman has been loved in a way that reaches beyond her flesh and touches her spirit, everything changes. She starts to expect more, not because she's entitled, but because she's awakened. She starts to ask deeper questions. Can you hold space for me? Can you love me without needing to fix me? Can you see the parts of me I'm still learning to love myself? And the answers to those questions become more important than chemistry or attraction or shared hobbies. Because when you've tasted truth, compatibility is nice, but alignment is necessary. Alignment means the energy flows both ways. It means she can rest without guilt, speak without fear, breathe without shrinking. Emotional truth makes her feel seen in the places where she used to hide. It makes her feel brave when she's scared, soft when she's hardened. And that safety, that sacred space, is the one thing she refuses to live without after she's had it. And she'll try, maybe. She'll try to move on, to meet new people, to settle into something easier, more stable, less volatile. She might convince herself that peace means never being challenged, that safety means never being vulnerable again. But at some point, the hollowness of imitation becomes too loud. The new connection feels too scripted, too clean, too manageable. There's no spark in predictable conversations, no soul in sanitized emotion. And in those moments, the memory of emotional truth crashes into her like a wave she thought she'd outswum. She remembers not just how you made her feel, but who she became in your presence. That's the key. Because emotional truth isn't just about you. It's about her. It's about the version of herself she got to access when she was with you. The woman who wasn't afraid to cry, to open, to dream out loud, to confess fears, to be silly, to be wild, to be undone. If you helped her meet that woman, you'll never be forgotten. Not because you're unforgettable, but because she was unforgettable when she was with you. And that's what she misses. That's what she searches for in the eyes of someone new. Not the face, not the voice, not the name, the feeling, the freedom, the fire, the peace. And no matter how far she runs, how high she climbs, or how deeply she buries herself in distractions or better options, the soul remembers what the mind tries to forget. Because emotional truth is a frequency. It's not found everywhere. It's not offered by everyone. And once you've tuned into it, anything less sounds like static. There are men who will try to buy her attention, flatter her into submission, offer her safety that feels more like control. But if she's been held by truth, none of that will suffice. She's not looking to be entertained. She's looking to be understood. She's not chasing butterflies. She's chasing stillness. She's not asking, does he like me? She's asking, can he hold me? And you did. Maybe not perfectly. Maybe not forever. But you did. And that experience becomes the light she looks for in dark rooms, the warmth she seeks in cold spaces, the answer she holds in the back of her mind when all other answers fail. That's the legacy of emotional truth. It doesn't need to be relived to be real. It just is. So when a woman has tasted emotional truth, she will never again feast on pretense. She will sit at many tables. She may even accept a few plates. But nothing will fill her the way truth once did. Not because she can't let go, but because she won't pretend. Because pretending feels like betrayal when you've known what it's like to be fully alive in love. So yes, she moves on. She grows. She thrives. But don't mistake her growth for forgetting. Don't mistake her silence for emptiness. Some things are carried quietly. Like a song that never plays but still hums in your chest. Like a letter you never send but never throw away. That's what emotional truth becomes when it ends, not a door that closes, but a window that stays cracked open, letting in the air of what once was. Because once you've been loved in truth, your soul no longer settles for echoes. It longs for the voice that called you home, not with volume, but with presence. Not with effort, but with ease. And if you were that voice, you are missed in ways words will never say. And when a woman has tasted emotional truth, no substitute, no matter how shiny, smooth, successful, or sweet, will ever satisfy. They miss you most when they realize that connection is rarer than attraction, and emotional intimacy is harder to come by than attention. We live in a world that has never been more connected and yet more emotionally starved. Attention is everywhere, likes, texts, followers, DMs. but true connection, that is rare, that is sacred, that is hard to find, and even harder to hold. Attraction is immediate, it takes seconds. A look, a smile, a clever sentence. It's there, it's easy. But connection takes presence. It takes time. It takes two people who are willing to lean in, not just with their bodies, but with their souls. That's what she misses. That's what stays with her long after you're gone. Attraction is common. Walk down any street, open any app, sit in any room and you'll find it. Physical beauty, witty banter, surface level chemistry, they're easy to come by. But the connection you built with her, the depth, the silence that spoke louder than words, the comfort in being raw without fear, that doesn't happen every day. That doesn't come around often. That wasn't something she could just recreate.